Hello, welcome to 20 at 10 with Nat. I'm your host, Natalie, and my special guest tonight is Al Giesler. Al is a music photographer here in Austin and recently has also become the box office manager for Lightstream Productions up at the Hotspot. And he's a generally kind and talented human. So please put your hands together for Al Giesler.
I like the kind and talented human part. Thank
Yeah,
you.
there you go. Welcome to 20 at 10. Thank you for
Thank
being
you.
my guest tonight.
Well, thanks for having me. I'm very excited. A little bit
Awesome.
nervous, but
You don't
we'll
you don't
roll.
need to be nervous. This is, I think, the least nerve-wracking place you can find on the internet.
Well, I can believe. Absolutely.
Good, I'm glad. All right. I have, for those of you just tuning in, what typically happens, especially if I'm streaming live to Facebook, Twitch, and YouTube, that means that we've had a sound check, and we've also possibly chatted during sound check. So we've chatted through a couple of these questions, and some of them came to me in my brain during sound check, so I'm excited to talk about them. But one thing that I was really excited to chat about, well, actually, first, let me start with this question. I know you and met you as a photographer at an event. And I mean, I knew of you on Instagram and I've seen your photos, but I'd never met you in person until recently. I believe it was at the Revival event that David
Yeah.
Ramirez put on at the Hotspot. But also Grace Pettis, like you know Grace, and
Yeah.
I guess we met again there.
hmm
Um, so to me, you are a photographer, but you have not always been a photographer in the things that you do. Like, tell me how you got started in photography. Like, do you remember the first time it clicked in your brain, like, I love this, I want to do this?
So for me, I'm 5'2", and I learned pretty early that if you're going to go to a show, it's probably best that you're in the front. Otherwise, you're going to enjoy some sound and ambiance, but you're otherwise looking at a bunch of people's shoulders, which wasn't ideal for me. So um, I basically started as a guy that sat in the front row or waited in the front row for the show and had that silly iPhone in my hand, and I'm like, okay, well, let's see what happens. And I started taking pictures at the various shows I would attend, and I'd put them up for the six people on my Facebook at the time that would care to see them and uh, possibly relive the experience. And somewhere along the way, I decided, well, what if I bring an actual real camera that I have no business holding or even understanding, but let's see what happens. And I can remember bringing it to a few shows and not understanding the settings and like taking pictures that were totally black. And I'm like, I don't understand why this didn't work. And
How long ago was this?
uh, I remember I took it. Is Willie Watson? Is that the guy that's an old Crow Medicine show? Or he used to be. He played at the Cactus, and I was all excited to take his picture, and like none of them turned out. It was terrible. So it was like
Well, that is
7
a
years ago.
very dark room too. Like, you really
Well,
gotta know your settings. If you're doing
oh,
manual
100%.
settings, like,
Oh yeah.
yeah, oof, that's a hard room.
So I learned that I didn't know what I was doing very early on, and kept trying. And you know what's amazing about where we are in Austin is that we're surrounded by amazing people in our craft. So Sean Mathis, I don't know if you know him,
I
or
do. He's been on the show.
Ryan. I mean, it's all these cats that are always at the shows, and they're always very encouraging. And so you learn a little bit from this person, you learn a little bit from that person, and then you also kind of have to track with them on the internet and make sure that as their game improves, that your game is improving alongside. So,
Yeah.
anyhow, it's I've taken it seriously within like the last 7 years, like,
Okay.
um, and poor Shaky Graves, Alejandro, he's been having me shoot pictures of him probably for much longer than any of you guys deserve. But he's he's uh, he's been in the front of that camera a lot, and so it's been fun to kind of track with him because as he's grown in his career, I've kind of been getting better at my career as well. So
That's awesome.
yeah.
What about, like, is there anything to you that's magical about photography? Like, where's the magic in it for you?
So the whole music experience is energy, and so I'm just desperately trying to capture that moment of energy and seeing if it makes sense a day later or 2 days later or whenever that picture surfaces, because there's that it's just that connection, and there's just that excitement on a face, or that wink that, I see musicians use like baseball signals a lot. It's like y'all have this
Yeah.
language with each other that you guys understand, but in the crowd we don't necessarily get it. And so I always wanted to capture those moments that we're always up for the interpretation of the moment.
Right. Okay. I like that.
Thanks.
I was on a different screen and didn't see all the comments coming in. Joanna's joining us, Colin, Sean, Kevin, and Joanna has a question for you. What
Oh,
does a
hi.
box office manager at Hotspot do? She's
It's
only
a good
asking for
question. I'm still trying to figure it out, honestly. Essentially, I am the guy that helps make sure that when we announce an artist that is playing at the venue, that the tickets go on sale, and with a team that makes everybody look good. We all work together just to make sure that the shows go on sale, and then when you come to the show, that you're greeted with a smiling face, and I check to make sure your tickets work and everybody's happy. It's There's a lot more to it than that, but I'm still figuring it out, honestly. Kind of building it from the ground up. I've never done this type of work before, but I know enough about what it feels like to be a fan and wanting a really good concert experience. So I'm hoping that will help us to put on really good shows out there.
awesome. I appreciate that. I'm really excited
Yeah.
about all the things Hotspot is doing also. You have had an interesting, I didn't realize this till today when I was doing a little extra background research on you. Um, you've had some interactions with Luck, but before Luck, Heartbreaker, correct? Banquet.
Yeah.
And I was asking you about it, and you were telling me that that relationship started all because of technology. And I love this idea of technology working the way it's supposed to, and the way it's
Yeah.
created is to connect us or to make something that's generally hard easy, such as like LinkedIn's supposed to connect professionals, and I guess Facebook was intended to keep up with your friends and family.
Yeah.
um, and so that, tell me about how the connection with Lex started.
Yeah. So I mean, it started with technology too, because Heartbreaker Banquet was a festival that predates Luck Reunion. Essentially the same spirit and vibe. It's just that you know at one point there was a separation of church and state, and Luck Reunion kind of took over what Heartbreaker Banquet left behind. At the end of the day, I went to this festival as a patron. I won tickets through the internet, and they were
Nice.
hard. They were hard to track down. You had to be at the right place at the right time. It was kind of the scavenger hunt kind of thing. And so I went to the festival, rode in on a crazy bus that I picked up at Arlen Studios. The bus driver didn't really had never driven the path before, and so
Nice.
at one point I thought it was like this social experiment, like to see how far we could take humans. Like, oh, you're really going to Willie Nelson's ranch. Really, you
Uh-huh.
are, but no, not so much. But eventually, somebody that had been out to Luck before was able to help the bus driver get down to the right path. I went to Luck Reunion. It was an amazing lineup. I sat in the Luck Chapel and saw Hooray for the Riff Raff and Spirit Family Reunion and Samantha Crane, and these were just artists that I was enamored with at that time, and just to sit in this chapel with like 50 people just experiencing that was just, it was overwhelming. And then just the whole thing about Luck, I fell in love with it, and a couple months later I was sitting at home on the internet on Facebook at the time, and I just wrote a message on their Facebook page that really had a great time. I would love to help out. If I can volunteer, let me know. And lo and behold, the guy that was one of the founders of Luck Reunion, Matt Beiser, who to his credit, is a busy cat. He decided to respond to some random human asking how they could help. And eventually I met up with Matt, and I said, I'd like to volunteer. He's like, cool, we really don't have a volunteer team. Maybe you should put that together. And I'm like, okay. And so I put together the first volunteer teams for Heartbreaker Banquet. And then eventually I was bored and I saw that our social media presence wasn't doing a lot. So I'm like, hey, I can talk about music and things on our, social media and put pictures of the festival. And so they just kept giving me things to do, and I would ask them for more to do. And sometimes they'd ask me to do things too. And it was lovely. For about 6 years, I was part of that team, and it was a really important part of my life.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
Also, Kevin is saying some nice things about you. Kevin from Hungry Outlaw. Shout out. Yeah.
It's the feels. Yeah. It's interesting for me. I've been a fan, and I've been trying to figure out where I fit in this world. So I've been doing the photography thing. I did the thing with Luck Reunion, and now I'm doing, another aspect of the industry and learning box office and some of the particulars behind booking artists and things like that. It's cool to be on kind of this. I grew up a music fan. I started seeing live music when I was 12 years old. And so trying to figure out where I fit and being part of that community it's pretty special.
And you might have, I don't know if it ties together with the other question I asked about photography, but what about what you do brings you the most joy?
I love turning people on to music.
Cool.
I get comments every once in a while from somebody. It's like there's an artist from, I believe he's from Oregon. His name is John Craigie, and he's a guy that's played. I go to Pickathon, or at least pre-COVID, I'd go to this festival in Oregon called Pickathon, and I do it every year. I've done it for 10 years, and for some reason I never hit his show at Pickathon, and then I discovered his music during COVID, and I'm like, oh my gosh, I totally dropped the ball on this. But that's the nature of really good festivals. You're always going to miss somebody that you fall in love with down the road. But I just remember a friend that I've met through the internet and through festivals and through music, and when they give me that voice of approval that they liked what I'm putting down for them, that means I've done my job.
Yeah, so, that's cool.
Yeah.
What has been your most exciting creative experience so far?
I don't know if this is the right way to explain it. Just the fact that the artists even care to share the images it blows my mind. It's awesome. And sometimes I see that it happens. I'm like, oh, damn, that's my picture that they're broadcasting to their, whether it's 2 followers or 2 million followers, that people are seeing that. And that's my legacy. And that's kind of cool,
Yeah, I definitely have discovered photographers through either friends that are artists or artists that I follow. That I'm like, that's a rad picture. And I'll go and I'll check out the photographer, and if I like the other stuff they're doing, I'll just give them a follow, because why not? I like following people that do good work,
Yeah. It's interesting to see life through different perspectives. And everybody's got their voice or their art,
True. I ask all of my guests this, what is the very first experience you remember where you heard music and you were just it was a magical moment of being caught by a song?
I mean, that's a hard question. It's like choosing.
Sorry.
No,
it's the earliest
cool.
experience you remember.
Yeah. I mean, it starts with my first concert with Eddie Money. He opened up for April Wine, and just watching this human play this song that I heard on the radio, and making that connection that was a unique energy that I hadn't experienced before. And then you walk away from that and you get to rekindle that experience every time you hear that song down the road. So
Yeah,
it's just an ongoing gift that keeps on giving.
I like that.
Um,
That's cool.
Thanks.
When okay, what are a couple? This will probably be my last question of this portion of the show.
Cool.
What are a couple? I want to say bucket list creative things, goals that you have for yourself in the next like 5 or 10 years. And I think I mentioned some things in soundcheck, like types of things. It could be like a photography related goal or like other life goal, but I'm just curious in your mind today if you're like, man, I really feel like I've made it if I've done XYZ.
Yeah. I over the years, what's nice is, as I've been a fan and I've been in the front row of a lot of shows, and then as I've transitioned to a photographer, I've been lucky to take a relationship that started as a fan, and now I'm hoping to get more of a not peer to peer, but artist to artist kind of concept. And
Yeah.
I've got a couple of local cats that it's like I've let them know that I do want to go on that bus with them at some point. I'd love to go be a tour photographer, even if it's for a short leg. I don't know if I would be able to do the tour life, but I dang sure want to give it a shot. I want to try at least once, and but I want to do that.
What qualifies as that? Like, how many shows is that?
I think like even 3 consecutive shows, just to kind of get a feel for what a short leg is like, because I come at it from the approach of it's like friends and relatives and fish. They're great for a couple of days, but then it's time to move along. And so I want to be mindful of, to me, I really want that experience, but I want it to be impactful, and I want it to be a positive thing for the people that are giving me that experience. So
Right.
to me, the duration is a quality control aspect of that. So
That's really cool. Have you ever seen, what is it called? I think it's called Any Day Now. And it's a documentary about the Mumford and Sons and I think Old Crow Medicine Show tour that happened like in
okay,
2011 or 2012. And or somewhere around there, maybe a little earlier.
yeah,
And they took a silver bullet train from like California to New Orleans. Do you
oh
remember
yeah,
this?
the
Did you see
Railroad
it?
Revival tour. Yeah,
Yeah. Did
yeah,
you? Well, did you see the documentary?
I did. Yeah,
And the thing, so at the time that it came out, I also was in photography, and I was watching that, and I was like, there's a filmmaker on that train and a photographer, and I was like, dude, that would be so cool.
oh yeah,
Because at the time, I was too shy to like share my music out with people, so I was like, the way that I was expressing myself artistically was through photography, and I was like, well, I could do that. And
yeah,
that was the first time I thought about it, like, oh yeah, someone has got to document that journey. So I
yeah.
suppose
See, I didn't
that's a
even.
cool idea.
Although I grew up reading like rock and roll magazines and reading album liner notes, it's like it never dawned on me that, oh, there's actually a human being that's getting, in theory, paid to do that job,
Yeah.
and that's something that is going to live on forever. You know,
Yeah.
how
It's really
rad
cool.
is that? So
It's
I
weird
want to be
that
that.
yeah, it's weird that your photos and hopefully my songs will outlive us. Like that is
Exactly.
part of our legacy is the art that we're creating. So,
Yeah.
yeah, that's really cool. Well, are you ready for the pop question portion of the
Yeah.
show? Okay.
And I apologize. My allergies are catching up with me, so excuse the Kleenex dab for a second. I'm so
No
sorry.
worries. No worries.
It
Okay.
is Austin, Texas, y'all.
First, da-da-da-da, I missed a couple comments. Joanna dropped a couple comments. Oh, Joanna just got the 10-year special release of Roll the Bones.
Yeah.
Today in the mail. What a coincidence. It
Yeah.
happened today.
It's
Okay.
so it's so fun watching all y'all and how you grow up in this world. You know, um, that's why I do what I do. You know. Anyhow.
It's fun to look back and just see, even a couple years ago, how different I was as a person, how different I was as an artist, even like the way my voice has changed. Like
Yeah.
the physical like sound of my voice has changed. I use the physical aspect of my voice differently
Yeah.
than even 2 years ago. It's really crazy.
Yeah.
Okay, pop question number one.
Okay.
Have you ever brewed your own beverage?
Does coffee count? I mean,
Sure.
yeah. I
If
mean,
coffee counts, then I for sure have brewed my own beverage.
I, I,
And
I,
maybe
I
even sun tea. Have you ever made sun tea?
here's what's weird is like in all the years that I've been in the southern part of the United States, I've never made tea, but I grew up in South Dakota,
Okay.
and for whatever reason, my stepmother always made sun tea. So she
Interesting.
put the big old jar out, and that always strikes me as a southern thing, not a
I
South
think it
Dakota
is.
thing. You know,
Yeah,
so
but that's cool. As long as it got, I guess, hot enough to make it.
well, and we're not that far removed from what 6 months ago, and we were all freezing to death in Austin.
Gosh.
So I learned how to do a lot of things with tea light candles
Oh yeah.
and
Just
the
this
little
year?
small. Oh yeah, the small convection oven.
Oh
So yeah,
gosh.
you can make coffee or heat up something from frozen. It might take 4 hours and a lot of
Oh my
candles,
gosh.
but it can be done. So
Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah. Yeah, that was a really crazy time that I keep forgetting about because it was so crazy.
it it feels like so long ago, but yet it really wasn't. It's been a long
And
year.
I find when I'm referencing the deep freeze in Texas, in my head it was 2 weeks long. And then I actually look at the calendar and I'm like, okay, so I didn't have data on my phone for like 8 days. We didn't have power for like 4 days.
Yeah,
It wasn't 2 weeks, but definitely
yeah.
has imprinted as 2 weeks in my felt experience.
Yeah. Well, I mean, it was.
It was
Yeah,
traumatic, as if it had
it
happened for
was.
2 weeks.
Yeah, and to be fair, and with good nature, of course, a lot of folks felt they're still feeling the impact. There are still people that their apartments were not suitable for living in the first place. Then that came. So it's unfortunate that we're still cleaning up from that. We're not ready
Yeah.
for the next round, unfortunately. But knock
Yeah.
on wood.
Oh, I
Anyhow.
mean, even this last week, our power was out for like 3 hours. Twice in
Oh
the
yeah.
last 2 weeks, the power's been out for 3 hours or more.
Yeah.
Crazy. Have you ever been mugged?
No. You know,
I don't think I have
I
either. I've been close in another country.
I was in Waco one time in my former life as a dental sales rep, so I would like get on my old school Dell laptop and try to ping the network or do whatever. And I was in a apparently maybe a more sketchy part of Waco, and I felt like I was about a minute removed from getting carjacked, and
Oh,
my
wow.
my fight or flight kicked in, and it's just like, all right, I am out of here. I don't know you, and we don't have business, and um, but
Did
I've
you like
never
sit in
felt.
your car on your laptop?
Yeah, because I'd be sitting in the car and like typing in notes from whatever the visit was that I was dealing with, or seeing where I was going next and getting mentally prepared or what have you. And like this van pulled up right next to me, and the guy hopped out and said, "Hey man, let me talk to you." I'm like, "No, that's okay. I'm out of here." So
Wow.
yeah,
I mean, like, as a girl, I would have done the same thing. But, like,
yeah,
typically, no one has business with me. Like, we're taught as women to, like, see a white van with no windows, you just get out of there.
exactly. Well, one of my brother, Ricker, he was in the Peace Corps in Kenya, Africa, for a couple of years, and he's like, when your gut tells you it's time to go, trust your gut, and that's always kind of stuck with me. It's like your gut generally will lead you down the right path. So um,
Interesting.
I'm sure they just wanted to give me cookies and iced tea, but I wasn't
Do you
feeling that
support the
love.
Girl Scouts of America? Um, Interesting. Okay. Huh, interesting. Okay, one more. Have you ever found out that you were dumped but from a third party? Indirectly been broken up with?
No, probably because I'm too shy and didn't learn until too late that I probably should have gone out more often than I did. So I think I was too guarded to allow that to happen. So, you know,
All right.
progressively cutting that off before it even happened, that, yeah, shy kid growing up. So,
Joanna is jumping on our possibilities of the white van. Maybe wanted you to join a cult. The friendly
and
cult
see,
down the street.
I've kind of figured if it ever came to like the apocalypse, that I'd have to start the cult because clearly at 5'2", I'm not an intimidating character. But I'm hoping I can charm enough people to
Or brainwash the strong ones to surround you.
exactly.
There you
Seems to
go.
happen often. So,
Surprisingly often, yes. All
exactly.
right. Do you have a question for me?
Yeah. So I wrote it down, and now that I've been chatting, I have to go back and make sure I know what I'm saying. So I always come at life from the perspective of being a fan. So, what is your favorite part of being a fan, whether that's of music or anything for that matter?
Favorite part of being a fan? I think, and I've had to I relearned this in 2020. And I think sometimes as an artist you can get caught up in the cycle of like create content, keep writing, next show, whatever it is,
Mm-hmm.
like keep going. And like I forgot to take a moment to enjoy music for myself,
Yeah.
And um it thankfully I still have friends that will like send me links to things or like, hey, have you heard this person? Do you like them? And sometimes I just don't get around to listening to some things. But sometimes I take the time and I listen to things. And I do discover music that I love.
Yeah.
And my little sister's been on a roll recently sending me songs that I really like. But probably the end of 2019, beginning of 2020, I found an album by an artist I kept hearing about, but I just kept refusing to listen to.
Okay.
And I finally listened to the album and I got really into it. Like it was on repeat. And it had just been a minute since I'd had any album that I liked enough to put on repeat. And I just was like, wow, this is so weird. I actually want to hear this whole thing again. And like that feeling of like, I want more of this. Like that's a good feeling of like, I like this music enough that I want to hear it again.
Yeah.
And then I got to a point where I was like, I've listened to this enough. I'm like, and lockdown happened. It was right before lockdown. I got into this album. I was like, I wonder if I could like cover all these songs. So then like, I started covering them on guitar, and one of them on kalimba actually.
Yeah.
And I made this. I didn't think it was super ambitious, but it ended up being pretty ambitious. I didn't finish all of the tracks on the album, but I got like 7 or 8 out of 12, and that was really interesting. And it felt kind of, I don't know if intimate is the right word, but I felt like I met that artist on a different plane of existence because now I'm actually, I guess, kind of meditating on the art itself. I'm learning the melody. I see your chord progressions
Yeah.
that you're playing. I'm hearing these things and I'm translating that to a different instrument or a different key. I'm taking liberties in the song where you you didn't do this, but I'm doing this. It was just really interesting to like love someone else's art enough to like learn it and even start to make it your own. And that's an interesting cycle, an interesting relationship with the art itself. Like I don't have a relationship with the artist at all. But I do have somewhat of a relationship with their art, and that's a super interesting thing to me. And it's been a fun journey of
Yeah.
not discovering for the first time. That's always fun. and then like loving the art and then learning it and then performing it. And I well, supposedly they're going to be in town soon, so I have a ticket to see them. Hopefully
Okay.
nothing gets canceled, but that's going to be a whole nother thing because I've never seen them perform live.
So do we
So,
get to know who this is?
oh yeah, it's Pedro the Lion.
Okay, cool.
Um, and so I'm just super curious to like, because I've seen video of his live performances and I've heard his music. I'm not as intimately familiar with everything prior to the current album,
Sure.
but that current album is what I kind of feel like I've studied fairly deeply. So I'm
Yeah.
just curious how that will translate into a live performance because that is one of the most beautiful things about music. The live performance aspect is that the thing that happens in that room, on that stage, in that outdoor experience is a thing that even if it's note for note played the same on a different night, you will never have that same moment again. And
Right.
there may be some kind of energy that's one way one day and one way another, a different way on another day. And it's
Mhm.
like, and I think that that is something that you also experience probably as a photographer too, is like there's just a certain energy that's happening that even night to night will be different.
Yep.
And there will be a different cue, a different eye contact, a different smile. And that's, yeah. So I'm really excited to see him live and to see what how I feel in the live performance, you know, because I
And
felt most of the other aspects.
you've not seen them live before.
Not in the flesh, not in the
Okay.
same room.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
Exactly. And so that's what I love about like the live music. It's like I guess it starts with a physical record that was created in a studio of some sort, but like there's a band that I saw it's over 10 years ago now. They were called the Low Anthem, and they still do things. They're kind of an East Coast band. I think they become more of a regional focus over the last few years. But their album, when I listened to it the first time, I didn't really get it because there was just some sounds and noises that I didn't really understand where they were fitting. And then when you see this live and you understand the mechanics of what the sounds are coming from and just how exquisite that is. It's just experiencing things live kind of puts the whole package, the bow on the package to me. It's
Yeah.
like this is my message here. I'm presenting this, but when you hear it presented directly live from the person, it just takes on a different magnitude. In most cases, sometimes not. Sometimes it's okay just to let the record roll, and maybe some artists are better presented that way. But most often, seeing something live and seeing it with that emotion is it's just it's awesome.
Yeah. And it's who who I mean, favorite questions are often not fair. Uh what is one performance you've been the most moved by?
Well, I mean, like when I saw Eric Clapton many years ago, and I'm unfortunate that he's got some positions in life that he does right now, but um, I always loved his show because it was like a roller coaster. It was like emotionally you get fired up, and then he brings you down, and it just was a wave, and it was like catching that wave and riding that wave. But um, when I think about energy and what I really love about live music, it's like I saw the Avett Brothers in 2006 for the first time in a room with like 20 other people, and I just had never seen live music presented in such a manner, in such a raw, organic, just foot stomp and loud and raucous and kind of not seemly in some cases, but it's just like, oh my gosh, I have to see this again and again and again and again. And it's like watching a baseball game. It's going to be a different game each time. It's going to be pretty much the same, but it's just going to be a whole different ball game every time. And
Right. That's a good example.
that was the first energy that I really wanted to chase and like be part of. And so there's bands like that have been in my history. It's like the Grateful Dead were that for me, and the Avett Brothers were that for me. this cat Daniel Norgren out of Sweden, who I walked into his set the first time he ever played in the United States, and I walked into it cold, and I'm like, oh my god, where has this human being been all my life? And I'm going to move to
Wow.
Sweden now. So
Wow.
yeah, I mean, so these are like there's forces that happen to me in my life as far as music, and that kind of that's the sun that I orbit around for a while, you know. So there's always going to be like these anchors, like the Avett Brothers were, Daniel Norgren, Hiskell the Messenger. I can't wait to see them again live. I'm so excited to see Mike and crew come through, you know. So anyhow, I don't know if I answered the original question. I started rambling about other things, but
I think so.
yeah.
Are there any other things you want to ask or do you want to talk about before I go to the next set of pop questions?
What do you like in terms of what is your relationship with photographers when they're shooting your show? What do you like about that experience and what don't you like? Because to me, it's this double-edged sword of like I really just I want to capture energy, but I also it's like an invasion of space, you know?
I try not to think about it too much, honestly. Like I'm aware when there's a person with a camera, I'm aware that they're there. And I don't know if it's because I used to be a photographer and I used to shoot shows and shoot weddings and shoot
Yeah.
portraits and have to figure out in that critical moment in a wedding or a moment in a show how to crouch on the side of a stage and not distract from the show. You know, like there's so many things going through your head, or at least going through my head in that moment of trying to get the shot and trying to think through. I have to separate myself from remembering that. Like, but at the same time, like for example, I recently played a show and I played the island on the kalimba,
Okay.
and it is a the main downside to this song and performing that song is that, well, I have the instrument here because I'm going to play it later, but it's because the instrument's so small
Yep.
that like if I'm on stage and you don't know, I always say, hey, this is a kalimba, so people know I'm not like texting on stage, because it looks like from a distance, because I'm looking down and singing,
Right.
it looks like I'm like on a phone or a tablet.
Sure.
And so I try in the same way that I try and tilt the instrument forward during the instrumental part so that people can see, oh, she is actually playing an instrument.
Right.
There was a photographer a couple weeks ago, and I noticed he was on the side, and so while I tilted the instrument forward for a brief moment, I also tilted it to the side, hoping that maybe he would see and could take a photo and
Yeah.
actually see the actual instrument. And so, like, I don't let it run my show, you know, but like if I have a moment and I'm aware that they're there and it's a moment where I am able, I will like try and, because we're all in
Yeah.
this together, you know, like
Right.
I'm trusting, like I make a lot of weird faces and I'm a very strange and goofy faced person, my expressions. So I'm trusting that photographer not to like splash all of my goofy faces online. And I'm dressing up and I'm putting forth an hopefully interesting and welcoming presence, engaging presence. And so I don't want to make their job harder, you
Yeah.
know? Like I'll do what I can,
Yeah.
but at the same time, sometimes if I am having an off day or I'm super nervous for some reason or something has, the sound guy is being very unbearable, or woman, but usually it's a sound guy that I would have an unfortunate interaction with, and that is really stressful. Like there's a lot that I have to just tune out to focus on the music, and so if it's taking all my energy to just get the music out, then I don't have the space to think about someone else. But
Right.
I don't know. So like I do try and I guess maybe it's because I've shot music. I do occasionally am able to think about like, oh, this might be interesting if there is a person right there to shoot this, but
Right.
I don't necessarily let it run the show.
it's and then from my experience, I'm hoping that I'm smart enough to catch that when it's presented, because it's
Yeah.
like, oh man, it's like I know I just missed something right here, but and to your point about the making sure that the trust is there, the photographer is going to show you in a good light. It's like I don't know what it says about me, and I'm trying to figure this out. But it's like I'm getting to know a lot of artists, and I care about them, and so I want to make sure that if I'm presenting them, that I'm presenting them in the best light. But I also know that I'm missing out on some amazing rock and roll faces that maybe if it's a band that I don't know, I'm probably gonna just throw them out because I don't really know them. But if it's
Yeah.
somebody I know, it's like I want to make sure that they look pretty and beautiful and
Yeah.
amazing because that's what they are.
Yeah.
Um, so I don't know. I don't want to give like the Sex Pistols look to somebody that I don't know if that's the energy they want out there. You know what I mean? So
I mean, like, if you think that objectively it is a really cool shot and the expression is on purpose, you
yeah,
know? Like, I think it's okay if they're like
yeah,
whatever,
exactly.
or like not a grimace, but like an emotive. I think that's fine, you know?
Yeah,
Like, when I would get frustrated was like when someone, their mouth is moving, like finding the right, like how I realized like vowels are better. Like,
yeah.
like
Uh huh.
that bass is better than
Because you get
like,
more teeth.
or you don't know what
Uh
someone's
huh.
gonna say if you're like
Yep.
falling in love, but if you just get that, it looks like something different. You know, you don't know what they're gonna say, but you
Exactly.
know what that first letter is.
Exactly.
Yeah.
It's yeah. It's important to use good discretion. Um, but anyhow,
Okay. Next pop question: have you
please.
ever ridden an elephant?
An elephant? No.
Everyone so far that I've asked that question to has said, maybe James Jean had. Everyone
Yeah.
else has said no. Have you ever worn sequined clothing?
I don't think so.
You know what it is, right? The shiny.
Yeah, I don't believe so, but
Ooh.
there may have been a drunken college thing that got goofy. I'm not sure.
I definitely have worn sequined clothing lots of times.
I
Well,
think,
maybe not sequin, but definitely velvet and shimmery clothing.
yeah, shiny. I could probably rock it though.
Probably. Have you ever walked into something because you were looking at your phone?
Pretty much all the time. Yeah.
Oh, nice.
Because I should be wearing, because I'm getting old like the rest of everybody else is, but like these glasses are probably well past their prime, and I should be wearing those progressive things that make you be able to see better from one. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So that's why when you see me at a show, especially if I'm trying to put up a social media post about how awesome your set is, it's like I'm holding the phone way up here because I'm blind, essentially. So, yeah.
Nice.
Yeah.
I remember one of my first interactions, like noticing someone on their phone texting, I think. Uh, and I watched them walk into a tree. And I
Yeah.
just like burst out laughing. I don't know.
Yeah.
I mean, it was, I don't wish, physical harm on anyone, but it was pretty funny because
It's still amusing.
he might have, I don't think he fell down, but it was very shocking. Like,
Yeah.
yeah, it was very funny in the moment. I just like, boom, happened right in front of me. And I was like, ouch.
I'd still rather do that than like the plate glass window thing because that would hurt my feelings more. I think. At least I know I'm being a dummy if I, cause it that way. But plate
Yeah.
glass.
I've actually, I don't know that I've walked into glass, like a door or something, like glass door or window. But I have managed to walk into an open door. Like the door is open and I just like was like walking forward with my head turned, and then as I turn around, just like boom, like
Yeah.
right. How is that even possible? But just like right in the middle of my forehead, and I don't think I fell down, but it was
It,
painful.
probably smart.
It was
Yeah.
painful.
Yeah.
I don't recommend it.
No.
It was also embarrassing. not too many people were around, but like I was managing a staff and like some of my team was around me. I was like, oh my gosh, cool.
That's okay. It's good to let your team see you in a moment of being human.
True.
You know, so
Yeah, there was plenty of that. I'm very human.
that that gives them probably more tuned in vision of you than anything else would, right? So
True. Well, are you ready for the final song?
I think so.
Okay.
Thank you
Uh,
for doing this. I
yeah.
it's been a lot of fun. I've had a range of emotions from being nervous to like, oh, somebody loves me and all this. So it's fascinating. So thank you.
I'm so glad. Yeah, and you didn't really have any reason to be nervous, right? Because this has been fun, right?
It's been amazingly fun.
Okay, good.
I just am. It's not. This is my first rodeo. So
I
usually I get to
mean,
say it's yeah.
lots of my guests, this is their, that's what's been fun about the show. Lots of my guests, it's been their first, maybe not interview, but like, I mean, less and less as it's been a year of like a lockdown, but
Yeah.
many of my guests, it's their first, I guess, digital live stream or interview or talk show.
Yeah.
Anyways, you've requested that I play The Island on the kalimba.
Yes. Yes.
So I'm just going to say it for anyone watching who doesn't know what this is or hasn't heard the song. This is a kalimba. It is an African instrument made of wood. It's a hollow piece of wood with metal tines. Sounds a little like Mr. Rogers' Neighborhood. And this song is called The Island. And it's going to be on the upcoming album that I'm going to release
Nice.
soon. Just recorded it in Nashville and had to play this to a metronome. I was very intimidated. And,
How many takes?
you know, we did a couple, one or two roughs that we used for, or we were going to use for the band to listen to, for the band to play to.
Okay.
But we ended up not using it for the band because it was pretty imperfect. And then I think it seems like three or four. They're pretty, like, that was a surprising thing about Nashville. Most things happen in three takes.
Yeah.
And I think there might have been a fourth and there might have been a partial. But they were really encouraging. They're like, actually, you're pretty good at rhythm. And I was like, it's a relief. It doesn't,
Yeah.
I'm not used to playing to a metronome and there's a lot going on in this little guy and I have to look to like hit all the tines right. So,
Is it a percussion instrument or what is the
I mean,
class?
it's plucking.
Yeah. It's pretty.
I think I've heard people call it a thumb piano, but officially it's a kalimba.
Yeah.
Um, it's very fun to play, but I definitely have to keep my eyes on it. So I don't even know if
Yep.
you'll be able to see it, but I will do my best. Here's the island.
Thank you.
He said, honey, you may have angels keeping you in the light, but I've got these demons and they're holding me tight. So if you've a moment and can spare me the time, I'm in over my head. Won't you throw me a lifeline? 'Cause I'm lost in the ocean, searching for the shore. You're the island that I've been looking for. I hope you let me land, 'cause I can't bear to let you go. He said, love, I'm a man. I've been wandering so long. I'd almost lost all hope you existed at all. But I see you and I feel you. You can't be a ghost. If you're willing to see me, then I have to know. 'Cause I'm lost in the ocean, searching for the shore. You're the island that I've been looking for. I hope you let me land, 'cause I can't bear to let you go. You're my sunshine, my refuge, my peace in the storm. You're the reason I'm seeing stars I've never seen before. I was lost in the ocean, searching for the shore. You're the island that I've been looking for. I hope you let me land, 'cause I can't bear to let you go.
That was beautiful.
Thank you.
Did you write the song with that instrument in mind, or how did that come together?
I did actually. I ended up on a trip where I intended to write, but I could not take my guitar. I needed an
Okay.
instrument that would fit in my luggage.
Okay.
So a friend of mine who's a percussionist, I guess that would classify as a percussion instrument, she let me borrow hers for the week. And I had a song due at midnight. I was in a songwriting group. And
Okay.
so I wrote a song. Gosh darn it. I was going to get
Yeah.
it done. So I got it done, and I was like, actually, I really like this song.
Yeah.
And so I started playing it live, and I was like, wow, I guess I'm going to have to buy a kalimba now. So I bought a kalimba and gave hers back so she could, continue having her own kalimba.
Sure.
And kind of the rest is history. This one's tuned to the key of G.
Okay.
There's, I believe, 17 tines.
Okay.
You can get them with fewer tines, larger tines, chromatic.
But so you can tune the instrument, or is it like you would have different harmonicas and different keys?
It would take too long to tune it live. I would do it like harmonicas, where you'd have a different
Gotcha.
one. But like if you knock one of the tines, because you tune them by like moving them this way underneath this metal plate.
Okay.
So if one of them is like kind of flat because maybe you dropped it or you knocked it, like I have like one of those snark tuners. I can just clip it on here and actually tune it to the snark tuner.
Oh, cool.
It just takes a little while, and it's kind of hard to move some of those tines. So, but you can buy them tuned to any key.
Okay.
Yeah, they're a lot of fun. I highly recommend it. I got mine on kalimbamagic.com.
What is your favorite instrument to play?
I feel the most comfortable on guitar. I enjoy picking up kind of a one-off instrument. I picked up I think it was a banjolele.
Okay.
And just in playing it, the sounds and the different size and the feel of the strings and everything, I immediately started writing a song on it. So anytime I pick up an instrument and I start writing a song on it, then to me that's a good thing, a good feeling, a good sign.
Yeah.
I recently borrowed a bouzouki, which
I have
is
no idea what that is.
it's like a guitar, but the body is like a bowl shape, like it's very round.
Okay. Yeah.
Very difficult to, I don't know how you're supposed to wear it or play it, because like it's hard to keep it flat and it sticks so far off of you, It's very.
So you're playing it like the fretboard up here, and
I still play it like a guitar.
okay.
It kind of sounds like a banjo, actually.
I see.
But the body's round, so it's just hard to like keep it straight, because it'll just roll up or roll down the string. It's very. I haven't figured out. I started writing a song. I didn't finish it, so I may borrow it again. I just ran out of room in my bedroom / office / studio.
Yes.
But I like trying new instruments. They're fun.
Yeah. Well, I mean, you're using similar skill sets, but you gotta train the muscles to work differently, right? So.
Yes.
Yeah.
I don't know that I'd be as good or enjoy as much wind instruments or brass.
Okay.
My first instrument actually was flute, and I didn't like it at all.
Yeah, I've never had much business for a flute, but I guess there's points in time where it's really lovely, but yeah, often and not.
it's got to be, I think, kind of like everybody's got to find their thing, you know, and I think, uh, I don't know that it's technically like bonding with a person or an animal, but I think, you know, different people are suited for different instruments, and
Yeah.
it's not just that your body works well with an instrument, like your arms are long enough or whatever, because like you can overcome common obstacles to like play the instrument, but um, I think it has to do with the actual resonant sound coming out of it and the actual way that you use your body to play the instrument. There's something about it, I think, that connects with different creatives. And so for me, I found it with guitar.
Yeah.
And so that's my primary instrument. I've played around on piano, but I don't know how to play.
Yeah.
Yeah. You, do you play any
I
instruments?
well, I play guitar with the same proficiency that I learned when I got a guitar, in eighth grade. So it it that's kind of like for I keep coming back to photography, and like I've never had an artistic outlet until photography, or one that I really like. I always wanted to play guitar and play it well, but at the end of the day, I just wasn't ever that excited to learn how to better myself at it. Other than the three chords that I knew and how to strum. So, but
Right.
with you know, so it's kind of like when you're saying, everybody's maybe has it's that internal vibration that we need to find with our instrument. Um, I didn't vibe with the guitar. I really wanted it, and it looks pretty when I play it, and I want it to be there, but I just never felt compelled to master it.
Yeah.
So, um,
That's okay. Like, you don't
but it
have
might
to.
not be the right instrument.
Yeah,
That's what I
it's
was
not a
thinking.
requirement. And
Yeah,
I had a violin for a while, and that didn't really. I kind of tried playing it just to see if like I liked the sound, you know.
yeah,
I do love the sound of cello, but I've never tried playing it. So it would be interesting. I encourage people to start with small instruments,
yeah,
just because they tend to be easier to borrow or buy, and they don't take up a whole lot of space, and they're sometimes easy to pass on to other people or to
yeah.
children. Because you never know, you might find something that piques your interest, and you might be able to, like, you might end up playing with like a controller for like Ableton or something, and you might end up digitally hashing out a melody or something like on a synth or on like a controller and build something digitally. Like digital might be your
Yeah.
thing, you know?
The whole
So,
concept is fascinating to me. It's like
yeah.
how anybody, however y'all do this, you wake up with a tune or you have a melody or you hear a lyric. I don't understand that. Like,
It's different for
it's,
every person. That's what's so
yeah,
cool about it. Some of it's similar. I
yeah,
mean, you've got to put something from here into something that other people can hear,
right.
and then you have to be able to perform it later, and it has to be translated into a language everyone can understand. So, like, whether that's tabs or like music on a page,
But I
static.
will say, our friend Grace, she said anybody can write a song. You just gotta, you know, be ready to do it. I guess in theory,
Yeah.
it's look, I'm not saying it the right way, but anyhow, I think we all have these things in us. We just may not understand how to bring them to the surface. You know,
Right. Right.
um, and that's where training or you know some of it y'all just have, and it's natural. And
There is an element where I do believe certain people have a natural bent towards something.
yeah,
There is a lot that can be learned too. Um, and then sometimes I think like some people just aren't meant to create music. You know, like
exactly.
in the same way that I'm not meant to do calculus, no matter how
Yeah,
much I try or learn or have a capacity to understand math generally.
yeah,
Um, like I really found a wall when it came to calculus in college. And I'm not dumb. Like I can do a lot of things, but like higher level math is not one of them, and that's okay. And
yeah.
so, but we need people who can do higher level math, and I appreciate them, you know.
Well, and I think for everybody's got different strokes of what they want to be better at and master, and so for some it's calculus, for some it's songwriting, and thankfully for others it's rocket science. So who knows?
Yeah. I think to your point though about anyone being able to write a song, like to me, I think I want to say that. And it could be that some people are just really not built for songwriting, and that's okay.
Yeah, yeah,
But if someone wanted to get better at songwriting or wanted to learn more, there are lots of songwriting workshops,
yeah,
songwriting retreats,
yeah,
songwriter groups, open mics. So there are lots of places to learn and get involved, and I'm happy to connect people with resources if people are looking, especially in the Austin area. But I do think that it's, especially with technology, now more than ever, it should be pretty easy to find a way to, through watching other people create, like learn and better ourselves creatively and
yeah,
learn new techniques and things. So,
yeah.
yeah.
It's. I always wonder about the relationship of vulnerability and songwriting, and I don't. Yeah. Anyhow, I'm digressing here a little bit, but
No, it's okay. I think it's important. I think vulnerability is really important in songwriting. Not
yeah,
all songs require it, but the ones that where people get vulnerable, I think have the possibility or capacity to be the most moving, you know?
yeah, yeah,
Um, thank you so much for being my guest today.
yeah.
I really enjoyed it.
Thank you for having me.
Yeah, absolutely. And thanks everyone for tuning in. I know Joanna had to jump out a few minutes ago for a phone call. Hey Heather, how you doing? Um, this video will stay up on platforms for a while so people can watch later. And if y'all have any questions, oh, I forgot to share your Instagram. Let me share your Instagram here in the comments so y'all can give Al a follow. And feel free to reach out with any questions. And otherwise, I'll see everybody next Monday night with a new guest. Thanks for tuning into episode 205.
Thank you for doing what you do, Natalie.
Yeah, absolutely. Y'all have a good night.